Good afternoon, everybody. Very warm welcome to another sofa safari on a beautiful winter's afternoon. Stewie's tracking for me today, and Brad's on the camera, and Frody on the comms for us. Just a few reminders. Just remember, when we change over to our different teams, to Ryan, Tom and Brand, just remember to either just wait a little bit, there's a slight delay, or just reconnect to get to the next team. So this afternoon, Stewie and I thought we'd do something different and just explain a little bit. You know, people often hear about our bushwalks or time spent on foot in the bush, which we think is such a wonderful experience for people and a really good time to disconnect. So this afternoon we decided, Stewie spotted some giraffe in the distance from the tracker seat, and in an area like this we don't go off-road for our general game species, mainly animals for the big five, to limit the amount of damage we do to the vegetation. So we thought we'd take you guys for a walk with us and go view a giraffe. While we're actually standing here, we also can hear some elephants in the distance. So we're going to first of all focus on the giraffe a little bit. So the aspect of the walk, many people ask the difference between driving and walking, and the big thing is that on a vehicle, yes, we are all one shape and the animals are well habituated to the smell and the sounds of the vehicle. However, on foot it is slightly different. You know, human scent is very different to the animals. They don't see us as food, they see us as a potential threat. So we always have to be incredibly respectful, and the most important thing is to view the animals. They might know that we're there to a certain extent, but to be incredibly respectful. But having your feet in the ground and being on in the bush is so special. So Stu's going to follow us. We always walk in single file. Giraffes are not too far off, and we'll have a look.
Like Trevi was saying, it's such a special experience to be able to get off the vehicle, avoid the humdrum and the drone of the engine, and just pull in all the different sights and sounds that we have from a different perspective and a different level as well on foot. So let's keep up with Trev. He's got sight of them, I think, and move in on these giraffe. Clearly we've piqued his curiosity. He was having a good look at us. Now he's probably going to move around and have another look at what we're up to.
There we go.
There we go.
So he's more curious about us than aggressive at all. Giraffes don't alarm call as what impala or other animals do. So he's just keeping an eye on us to make sure that we maintain a shape, and he's obviously wary of our presence.
We became aware of a few of them as we were moving through the area, and he's not alone here, so perhaps his movement back towards the left hand side as we're looking, perhaps just going to go and seek the company of the others. There's another bull further to our right feeding on a tambuti tree, and to his right, and so he's looking to that direction, perhaps to go and move back towards some company there.
The other one is a little bit further on there feeding on that tambuti.
What we'll try and do is just stay a bit adjacent to him rather than walking straight onto him. That's a bit confrontational. So maybe to put him more at ease, we'll walk parallel with him and just try and keep company with him until perhaps he joins up with the other one. Let's follow Trev. good view of him around the bush there.
You can see he's very curious. He's just keeping an eye on us. He's alerted by us, but as Stewie mentioned, the other larger bull is just to the left, well, his right, our left, and he's sort of angling towards him there. Let's walk around and see if we can get a view of the other bull. I'm sure this one will join.
Come and have a look here, guys. What a magnificent bull, very dark in colour.
See this lovely big bull. He's quite dark in colour. Generally, the theory is that giraffes darken in colour as they get older. They have a lifespan of between 28 and 30 years. And you notice the difference between the two. This guy's a lot darker compared to the other one. And we keep referring to them as a bull to tell the difference between male and females at a distance. If you have a look, especially at this big bull's horns, they're very large, bald on top, and make like two perfect fists for fighting. And these are referred to as ossicones, not horns. Ossicones are covered in fur, where horns are covered in keratin. So males will fight and compete. We call it necking. It's unbelievable to watch two male giraffe fight. They get very close. It's almost watching two boxers sparring. But the thud that they can hit each other with those ossicones is unbelievable. And they stay quite close together to avoid the kick as well. They've got a very, very powerful kick. You may see between the ossicones there is a bird called a red-billed oxpecker. They have a mutualistic relationship with the animals in cleaning the ticks and parasites. You can see they just flicked him off. And often when we're walking, the call of an oxpecker is an early warning sign for us that perhaps a large mammal's ahead of us, and that it's something to be wary of. But you know, for us, taking guests on walks to enjoy the peace of the bush and having the opportunity to view a big giraffe bull, and they are particularly relaxed on foot. They're more curious of us than worried about us. You know, if you stay as a group, they're generally more curious. If you split the group up, it's almost like a pride of lions spreading up. They're going to start to run. As long as they can see you, they seem to be quite comfortable with us here.
Always handy as well, because they're such tall animals, and you can see the surrounding bush here. He's able to see in the near vicinity over all of these bushes. And in fact, we had an episode on a previous Sofa Safari where we were alerted to the presence of a predator just because of the attention that the giraffe were paying towards it. So they can provide us with an early warning system as well for other animals on foot, and that's useful for us as well.
Try go a little bit closer and we'll see if he'll allow us. There's a nice little gap up ahead here, Stu. Let's see if he'll allow us to go there, otherwise then we'll leave him in peace.
Maybe we'll be able to get a full shot of him from head to toe through the gap there. Let's see how he reacts.
he walks across there to join up with the other bull coming out in the open there.
Oxpecker, pair of oxpeckers right on top of each horn, each ossicone there. Right, well I think we're going to stick with Trevor and slowly make our way back toward the vehicle, and let's see if we can pick up on the presence of those elephants that we heard earlier, not too far away from us here.
See, he's incredibly relaxed with our presence, and what I think we'll do, we'll just let him be. We thought to give you guys a nice taste, just a little taste of what it's like to be on foot. Hopefully when you come visit us, we'll be able to take you on a nice walk and enjoy the bush for yourself. But hopefully that's a nice little taste you've enjoyed. Let's head to the vehicle and see what else we can find.
Trust Trevor, but you never know. Sometimes these guides get lost and can't find their way back to the vehicle, so...
This is my daily life working with these guys. There's always something. But yes, the vehicle is here somewhere. I'm trying to find it. Just bear with me for 2 minutes, please. Don't act so surprised. I knew where it was all the time. Alright guys, well, as we mentioned, we heard some elephants and it sounded like perhaps they were playing in the mud. It's been quite a warm afternoon for a winter, so it sounded like they were possibly having a mud bath. We heard the hippos as well, so we're going to head that way and see what we can find. Let's see if Stuart knows his way.
What, better than you?
No. Feels like the blind leading the blind sometimes, but... That giraffe is still staring at me. So I get back to the road. Caught sight of that, they both seem to direct their attention in one direction. So let's come around the corner and see what we can see. When we're out in the bush and we're driving around, we're always in tune to looking, listening, smelling, as we've mentioned numerous times. But you know, as soon as an animal does this or behaves in a certain manner, we're always inquisitive about what is this animal doing or what is it indicating to us. And that's what we're really missing now, being able to share with you guys, is while we're out in the bush, is to, you know, say, did you hear that? Did you smell that? And then hopefully put the puzzle together. And that's It's always so exciting for us is what we've learned in the past about animal behavior. It's not always the case, but a lot of the times being inquisitive is how we learn.
Then of course that goes hand in hand with guests, so the inquisitive guests and questions and wanting to learn and know more. That always makes for a more valuable experience as we do that together. See all the oxpeckers on him now. He's got a whole lot of oxpeckers all having their afternoon dinner, cleaning all the ticks and parasites off him. You can actually see on the bridge above his eye those bumps there. They also get these calcified deposits there that actually weighten the head to increase the weight of the punch basically from the ossicone when they're fighting. You can see he's quite scarred. If you look closely on the ossicone, those white patches, those are pretty much almost like knuckle marks from fighting. So you can see he's a big mature bull, so I'm sure he's had quite a few battles. You may notice, I don't know if you can see it there, how long his tongue is. He can reach all the way up to his nostrils. So that's quite an important function for him to feed and to even break leaves a little bit higher than him. His tongue is that strong, he can pull it down to break leaves off that he may not reach. And I reckon that tongue's up to about 30 centimeters long.
Coupled with that is a special adaptation in his cervical vertebra that help with at the axis, and he can extend his head almost to 180 degrees, so quite vertical as well, just to get that last little few centimeters higher.
It's also quite amazing here. If Brad puts the camera back to where he was, he hasn't moved. He's literally just bent his neck, and you look at the camouflage. So he hasn't moved, he's just literally bent his head down to feed, and it's incredible how well they camouflage, especially behind these tambutis with the colors that have changed. It's amazing how 1.5 tons and 5 meters tall can disappear so easily. Wonderful. Let's head on, let's see if we can see these elephants and hippos. Just before I started up, you may have heard the oxpecker sound, and that's the sound I was referring to, that when we walk in the bush that we listen for these sounds.
Trev,
Yes.
one of the guests has heard about the 3 young male lions that have appeared on Ottawa property. Is there any news on that?
It's a good question. We've heard them calling, and we're not sure. They've come close to the sort of our traversing cut line, so we have heard them roaring, and they haven't come across yet.
So it's interesting times for our Matimba male. So yes, we have heard them roaring, but haven't come across yet, which we going to be make it for interesting time. Just an update on the lines. The Ottawa Pride at the moment are on a giraffe kill further east of us. So they've got themselves a massive big meal. The Mangan Pride are also coming in from the south. So on the line front, the population's doing really well. But like you say, these three males now, it's going to be some interesting times ahead of us for the Matimba male. He's going to have his work cut out. Too much sign for elephant here. Possibly at another pan that's a bit behind us. You guys are right there. But this is a pan where we see hippos quite regularly this time, so they're just hiding from us under the water. Could even have made their way around to the other side of the island, so they're possibly there. Shu, why don't you go in for us and just see if they're there? Yeah. It's warm this afternoon. Hey, Shu used to be so committed.
Problem is, I don't think I'd make it halfway. Not because of a crocodile or a hippo, but because this sludgy mud would get me stuck in the mud, literally.
Yeah. We heard them calling a little bit earlier, and this is perhaps where we first thought we perhaps heard the elephants mud wallowing. But there doesn't seem, as Shui said, there doesn't seem to be much signs or mud around. We'll have one more look here north of us on a little pan there, and then we'll see what the other guys have got in store for us. Guys, we'll show you here. You can see on the left hand side where these elephants have been having one serious fun time in the mud here. Shui said that he'll go in there and demonstrate what they were doing, but you can see here that there's fresh mud. You can see where the tracks are, and it seems like they've been having one great time in the mud here.
Yeah, if Brad can have a little look-see down on the mud where they were actually standing and then kicking it up in their trunks and what have you. You can see the footprints left behind, these drier patches, and that's obviously where they were standing. And then as they lift up and walk away, they get some mud on their feet, and that's actually what they have deposited and from under their feet, and they've walked away towards the western side here. But this must have been a whole lot of fun and games.
Trev, one of the viewers is asking what primates we get in this area.
The primates that we get here, the main diurnal primates are the Shakma baboon, I can hear the elephants. Shakma baboons, the vervet monkeys are our two, and then our nocturnal primate is the bush baby, very small primate. So those are the main ones that we get here in these particular areas. You know, in other parts of Africa, you have the lowland gorillas, the chimps, the yellow-faced monkeys. There's huge variety, but in this particular reserve, Shakma baboons, vervet monkeys, and the bush babies, which is a nocturnal. Let's have a look, guys. Let's have a quick look to see if we can pick up on these ellies. As you can see, these are the sounds that we were hearing in the mud here from when we were watching the giraffe. Where they go, Stu?
Some look like they went down there.
Let's go down more right, others.
Yeah, there's still mud dripping along the road this way.
Good. Right, you can actually put the camera low down, you can actually see the tracks here. You can actually see the mud deposits. Yeah. Stu's showing you there, and then over here, you can see where they drag their feet. Some of the mud here. And there we're going along here. There's this thing game path going off to the right hand side where it looks like they've gone down. Alright, but let's quickly pop down to towards the river. Let's see.
The northern bank up on the crest. Maybe these are the last ones catching up.
Far off in the distance. There's one up on the hillside.
Trev, one of the viewers wants to know what's your favorite animal to track.
My favorite animal to track. I think tracking as a whole is such a wonderful experience to get involved in. For me, the most challenging is leopard. You know, they're such shiny, elusive animals, and when you can put the tracks and sequence together and to find it, it is so more rewarding. You know, where I've stopped now with Stewie, this herd of elephant have crossed through the front here and actually headed down into the river. So while we've got some good light, what I think we'll do, we'll hand over to the other guys. We'll try find the herd of ellies, and then they'll cross back to us, and maybe we sit with the elephants for sunset. Let's see if we can find them. So in a couple of seconds we'll cross over. There's some very fresh elephant droppings here as well, which are pretty much brand new. We're down in the Sand River here, so I'm sure they've crossed north, but while we have some good light, we'll cross over to the other guys and we'll see what they have for us.
Came down with some more fresh dung here and then off that dust straight over.
Good afternoon, everybody. Well, welcome back yet again to another sofa safari. I'm Ryan. I'll be your guide for the afternoon. This is Tom.
Hello,
He'll be our tracker. Another beautiful afternoon, as you can see, and you've seen from the other guys. Great afternoon, winter's afternoon. Can you believe it? But we're going to take a nice drive down to the river, see if there's anything going on there, and then we're going to stop past a couple of spots that we've looked at previously, and get a bit of an update for you. All right. So let's go.
Cool. Let's do it. Yeah. There.
Let's go down, go along past the block. It might be those in car we saw earlier, just further east.
Yeah.
Right, so I don't know if you could hear Tom and I talking there, but in the distance we've got monkeys alarm calling. Monkeys are one of the animals that we often use to find predators. So we've always got a good vantage point. We've got somebody up one of the trees looking out while the rest of the troop feeds. Let's see, maybe the sentinel's seen something for us. Let's go along and stop and listen if we see anything. Switch off in a bit.
Get around, yeah, just so we got a bit of a view.
Yeah, let's go up and come down onto the next bend. Oh.
I'm standing up.
Nice. See the buffalo down at the river. Stop and have a look at this guy in a second. Alright, so while we see if we can, or rather if we can hear anything on those monkeys, we'll have a look at this old buffalo bull.
Chingaland.
Watching down, yeah. Alright, well we haven't heard anything on the monkeys, but the squirrels are still shouting here, just to the east of us. We'll just give it a little bit of time, and then we'll see what's going on. Now we've mentioned these old buffalo bulls, and how they can be extremely dangerous. And this is a good example of why. Often by themselves, often down by the river, hiding in the reeds and the thickets. So often catch you by surprise. And being old, you'll often catch them by surprise as well. Often their hearing and their eyesight would have deteriorated, and so it's easier to sneak up on them, not purposefully, but accidentally.
And that's one of the most important things out here, guys. Obviously, the kind of aggression that Ryan's mentioning, that's not necessarily because he is just an angry individual. That's often derived from fear, or insecurity to a certain extent. He's on his own. As Ryan says, his kind of senses might be ailing a little bit. So definitely one of his first reactions, if he sees something that is an enemy to him, being us, we are one of the animals, most of these animals, age-old enemies, he's definitely going to react aggressively in order to save himself. So it's all about just trying to stay alive out here. He's not going to kill you just for the fun of it or attack you just for the fun of it. It's all about defense and survival at the end of the day. But yeah, extremely formidable. And if we were to do a walking safari or even hop off of the vehicle and go and do a little bit of a tracking mission, it's one of the animals that we always pay a huge amount of attention and we have a huge amount of respect for, just to obviously ensure our survival at the same time. So yeah, definitely one of the more impressive characters out here, the buffalo bulls like this, especially an old chap. And you probably can't see it on the camera, but his horns are actually snapped off, and that comes from years and years of fighting and brawling with other buffalo bulls, trying to earn his keep and his position in a breeding herd. And of course, that's just the telltale sign that he's on the other end of the yardstick. He's kind of in his ending years.
But it's actually one thing we often get asked when we see buffalo bulls or any of the antelope males without horns. We often get asked if they grow back. Remember, that's one thing that's different for us. When you look at things like buffalo and the big bovines, all the cattle and things like that, they all have horns, and then antelope have horns, where your deer, which our friends found up in the northern hemisphere, have antlers. And remember, yes, antlers do grow back. If you look at antlers are made solely of keratin. As you guys know, at the end of the breeding season, they shed their antlers and then they grow back during the year. Where with our antelope and buffalo, horns is bone that grows from the skull, then surrounded by a protective layer of keratin. And if that breaks, it's gone. Bone doesn't grow back. Right? If you break your arm off, it doesn't grow back. Right? And so once they've broken them or damaged them, that's it.
Quiet, yeah, I think. Keep going, huh?
Yeah, I think we're going to keep going. A little bit further down the river to see if anybody else gives us any signs.
Hey, yeah.
back at the saddle-billed stork nest that we had a look at a couple of weeks ago, and that's Mom that has just sat down there. Remember, we do identify the sexes by the eyes. Before she sat down there, I managed to see it is the female bird with the yellow eye, and just to the right of her is one of the chicks. We've had a couple of brief glimpses of the youngster, and we're still not entirely sure if it's one or two, but definitely at least one. But yeah, we're not too sure. Now, we were saying earlier how it's crazy how that nest looks like a platform when she disappears. Right, now, often in the nests there's huge hollows, and some of those hollows can be 1.5 to 2.5 feet deep. So it's quite easy for the chick and Mom to hide quite nicely in the nest. I think what we're going to do is we checked a little bit earlier. We had a bit of a better view of Mom from there. So I'm just going to go forward. We'll try and look back and see if it's a bit better. Unfortunately not playing along again. But it is good at least to see that the chick is alive and well. You might have remembered when we viewed them last, we mentioned how they can have anywhere from 1 to 5 youngsters, and that's dependent on the adults and how good they believe the season is. If there's lots of food and they think they can raise 3 or 4 chicks, then they will continue to lay eggs, but if not, 1 chick, and then Mom and Dad can give that youngster all of their attention and food.
And just a little recap, obviously, for most of you guys, or some of you that hadn't watched our earlier episodes. As Ryan mentioned, this is a saddle-bill stork, and it is an extremely endangered bird species that we're lucky enough to have quite a few pairs along the river kind of systems in the greater Kruger region. It is endangered just purely because of the limiting factors: pristine river sources, obviously habitat loss going hand in hand with that. So as I say, very lucky and kind of privileged to see them quite frequently out here. And again, I'm not sure if you guys could really kind of see it with the zoom on the phone there, but it is a very striking bird. So jet black and white feathers, lovely red and yellow beak. And of course the saddle, if you might have seen one before, if you have a look on Google, or you might even see it in Ryan's book there, he's paging through now, but is a perfect little saddle-shaped part of the beak right near the base of the beak itself. So very aptly named there. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on there, but lovely striking colours.
See the bird itself. As I mentioned to you, you can see the yellow eye of the female, the darker eye of the male with his yellow wattle, and then you can see the yellow saddle on the top of the bill there. And as Tom mentioned, the red and black. Alright. Tom mentioned that they're white and black, and I've just spotted something else that is black and white, or white and black outside of the vehicle. Some of you may recognize this. Okay.
Any guesses there quickly?
Yeah, any quick guesses as to who or what this belongs to? Anything? Nobody? Alright, this is the quill of a porcupine. Alright, now the African porcupine, which we get here, is the largest rodent that we get. Okay, and we unfortunately don't see them too much in this area. They are here, but we don't see them. Obviously they're here, but they usually come out much later at night. And so usually in the early hours of the morning or around midnight they come out and forage, remembering that they feed on roots and bulbs and things like that. And so we'll often find where they've dug up food and so on, and you can see where they gnaw with their massive incisors in the vegetation. Now, one thing about these quills is people often think that the porcupines can shoot them. All right, we've seen in cartoons and things like that the American porcupine shooting them and our porcupine shooting them, but that is not the case. All right, they cannot shoot them. Remembering that this itself is actually a modified hair. Right, and it's a modified hair. You can see over here at the bottom where the white is, it's much thicker. All right, that would be the root. All right, so that's where it would go into the skin of the porcupine. Okay, and then this is the sharp bit that sticks out. Okay, now what happens is the porcupine will be resting. All right, lion or a leopard comes along, and what the porcupine does is it practices what we call philo-erection, which is the splaying of the hair on the body. And so what they do is they splay out all these quills, so you've got all these quills sticking up, and then they'll turn their backs on the predator and then try to back themselves into the predator. All right. Now, at the tip of the quill there's a tiny little barb, a little hook, and what will happen is sometimes this goes into the predator and then gets stuck, and it pulls out quite nicely. All right. Now that can be a problem for the predator, because if that gets stuck inside and breaks off, it can get infected. And if that's in your lip or in your gum, that's an abscess. All right, and it can be very difficult to eat, and it can starve the predator over time. All right, but yeah, not shot. Okay, so they have to be pulled out, and obviously then they do grow back. Okay. Now people will often say, what about moms giving birth to baby porcupines? All right, could be quite tricky, and yes, it would be quite tricky, but remember what you find is when the little ones are initially born, it's soft. All right, it'll be like soft hair, and then it gets harder as they age. All right, so there we go, something quite nice. Porcupine quill. Alrighty, is she giving us any more joy?
Not much.
Having a peek.
unfortunately.
Having a peek at us.
Yeah.
Alright, well, let's carry on. Let's see if we bump into anything else. See what the other chaps are.
Let's do it. Where do you want to head? Porcupines, maybe.
Unless we keep back along the lane, if we go down to
Somewhere around.
thinking it's then we come out on the river.
Yeah, let's try. Make sure you're boosted up.
Carries on with our story from we ended up in Europe. hopefully come right, and then you finish off. If not, we tell him how the foolish something's all here.
Okay, perfect. Actually, get ready. We'll hand over to you now. We'll just chat to the guys and look at that. Alright guys, so what we're going to do is we heard some more animals alarming down here at the river. So the three of us are going to just quickly have a bit of a scratch around, see if we do find something else. If we don't, have a great week. Thanks for joining us again. But we're going to hand back over to Trev and them. They've got something nice and special to carry on with the story from earlier. All right.
Cheers, folks. Have a lovely week.
You guys can take over there.